Okay, thank you so much for being here. Let me share my screen so we will see what we are doing today. Um, this was what we did last week. Um, we have the out zero working. Um, the agenda page doesn't allow you to see the agenda until you do login. The speakers are these kind of things that we showed the last time. And once you have login, then you can see the agenda. And I put a little of code here to show you the first thing that we are gonna work today on our training objects, which is how you can manage data locally, and then why and if you need or take really the decision of moving to have a database. And the spoiler alert about that is that sometimes you don't need a database. It really, really depends of the project. And as a software engineer, you have like the mighty powers of take those kind of decisions. And you can say, this is just a landscape, a landing page. I will not use it. So for example, this data that I bring here, let me show you my code. This data is hard code in the code itself. I'm having here in the app router, the agenda folder and the page of the agenda. And what I did is using a state, just create an initial object. Well, it's an initial array of objects, but it is an initial object that has the ID, the name, the date, the location, and a short description. Of course, this is simulate, so it has some pros and cons. As I mentioned here, it I consider that a con is that it makes interactivity really easy. So you can talk about these buttons without showing if they work really. It really depends of the project. It allows you to show information very easy for a review. Imagine that you are working with a client or something and you need to show them the information. This kind of situation is very straightforward to that. Now, of course, it has cons, and you probably will have a lot of managers, engineer managers, to tell you that you don't hard code data. Um, because then you don't have real control of the data. I mean, in theory, I can delete here and it works, but it's not true. Like I'm not, I'm not deleting the real data. It's just faking the the interactivity with a filter, um, which is clever actually, and I'm very happy of this method. But as soon as I refresh, it brings again all the data because again it's not real. I'm just faking these things. Um, but imagine that I'm just presenting this thing to a client or to my manager to have some feedback. I can say and the delete button works and it works. Like nobody has to know that it's not really working. And the same with the ad conference, but in this moment it works and it brings a new conference. But of course, it's completely simulate. And the way that I did that is handling the ad conference in this function handling conference, which brings a new object that is hard coded there. Like there is not a form for the user actually submit a conference. Um, and that will be probably the first thing that we need to do when we are working with a database, and we will. Um, but again, I want to show that you can work with fake data because a lot of times when you are thinking that you are needed a project, one of the barriers that are there is that it is intimidated. and you say, oh, I need to connect the database and how, why, which one, everything. Um, and sometimes, like the first iteration of your project, you don't need the database. You can show data, fake data. Um, so just something to think about it. Um, Let me talk to you a little more about how I handle. So what I'm doing with the handle at conference that is here in this button on the on click called the handle at conference. And what I did is that I bring a hard code new conference and I using the state setting that new conference in the array. Of course, it simulates, but it works pretty cool. And the delete, what it does is that using the set conference method of the use state, um, filter searching for the conference ID. So it doesn't show as the new object of the conference um, because Next.js allow you to do this very quickly. But again, as soon as you refresh the page, but you really are not hard coding this is simulate a JSON, you are not really simulating a JSON. Okay, so what we need to do now is having a backend. There is something that is called backend as a service, BaaS. That is amazing because it gives you the all the services and all the security information and checks and pretty much everything that you need. Documentation, it's amazing. Um, and allow you to have very quickly um, a database that allows you to have scalability and persistence, but most of the times the service, the BaaS, the backend as a service, don't work with SQL. They work with non-relational database. And we will work with one of those. There is a bunch of them. I think two of the most user like knowledge is MongoDB and is now is um, Google Firebase, and we will use that one, Google Firebase. Um, it is super cool because with just one installation, and it has amazing documentation, and it gives you all the security best practice. You don't need to worry about um, data injection or those kind of things. Um, it is very scalable. So if your project goes in the happy path and you need to scale that thing, you can do it very quickly. But one of the cons is that it could be super expensive very quickly. It escalates very quickly. We will use it on only the test. It will give you even the ability of having something on production, like in production, or only as a test and the free tier. And that is amazing because then you just need to be in testing. But if you really want to send that to production, it could escalate very quickly. And now the thing is that you don't need to set up like different accounts for your database or any other information. You just do a very quickly step, and that's it. It works perfect. So let's try to do that today on the whole cycle of creating this. But again, the first thing that we need to do for real is create here a form, because this is not how one actually put information. You have to have a form that have at least a field for the title, the data, and it is where it is, and a little description. So let's do that. It's very straightforward. We go to components, and in components, we create a new one, model. And I'm creating this as a model because when I don't want to lose the button, so the moment the button um, be there, I the moment the user click the button, I will open a model. So let me do very quickly this one. And I will bring some data here. I have this code already. So it's a bunch of Tailwind styles of how to create the model. But one of the important things that you need to, like, it's cool to know that working with Tailwind for doing models is that it allows you to manage the opacity of the background of the page, which is pretty cool, I think. Now, this model need to have some props um, because it will be, again, part of the parent, that is the agenda page. So I need a prop that is called is open to check if the button was clicked or not. I need on close, what happened when the button is when the user closed the model. And I need to pass on submit because this model by itself will not handle the information. It will be the parent, the agenda page. So first, it's very straightforward. If it is it is not open, return null, just to check. Now, I will have a function that is called handle submit, and it will be an anonymous function that receive an event. And the first thing that we need to do with this is prevent the default. That's always. And then I want to grab all these things from, so I have names for all the data that I'm handling. So what I will do here is using that as the value for the things that I want to do. So I will create a object that let's call new conference, and it will be an object. And the first key will be ID, and that will be let's put the date now. As an ID. That's one way of generating like, different ID dynamically. I need a name, and the name is in event target dot name dot value. I need a date. I need the same thing, but with date. I need a location, and it's the same thing, but with location. And I need a description, and it's the same thing, but with this. Okay, so in theory, I have these new things that it came from the form. Um, the data, I'm handling that with the type date here, which is pretty cool now. It allows you to have a date marking thing with just a type. And then what I need to do is that I will use the onSubmit prop here, and I will pass to that the new conference. And of course, I want to close this thing. That will be in this model what I need to do. Now, where I want to call this model, well, I want to call this model on the parent, the agent, the agent. Um, so let me check very quickly. Okay, so let's go to the page of the agendas. Simply global. We close a bunch of things here. Here is the agenda. Okay, so we are already handling like the data. And now we need another state for the model. So let's do a state is model open and set is model open. And my initial state will be false. Um, now I need to change this too because I'm not like grabbing this fake conference. I just set in whatever it is there, so I don't need this one. Then I need to pass to this function, this new conference. So let's do that, new conference. And now in the button itself, I will not put handle at conference at the bottom itself. I will put here on the on click an anonymous function that will call set is modal open to be true. And then I have this is modal open state ready to be used. So what I will do here is I will bring my model and of course I need to pass the props that I say. So it's open, it will be according to its model open. Uh, on close, we will need to set to do the same thing that we are doing with the bottom, basically to set the is model to false, and on submit here we are gonna put handle at conference, and this handle at conference is this handle at conference. And I think this will work. I'm having here, so if I add a conference, I have a and if I test this thing, uh, it works. It's here. Because I didn't change pretty much anything of the idea, just using the same functions that I have, but now there is a form which is in the model, and that allows you to work with the things that like simulate even better the user flow of having information. And of course, the delete function still works. And in this case, even works better because I'm not actually adding the object. Like this is still fake data. I'm not actually adding information to this to this data. And that is the point where you can say, do I really need a database? Like at what moment you really need to add data? So it is a good point to do, let's do that. Because for some reason in this project, say yes, you really need a database. Okay, so we are gonna use something that is called Firebase, and is a product of uh, Google Cloud. And if you go there, the installation is very simple, very, 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 very simple. So you go here. Actually, it's not this one. It's this one. It's the one. You want to be on console Firebase google.com. And then you create a project. Just put it the name that you wanted. It will give you an ID, an identifier, which is cool. Just do, I will disability this one because we are just testing. And again, this could be expensive very quickly. So I don't want to be, and then we will have to wait a little for the whole configuration. But while we are waiting, I want to explain how this no relationship database works. And it's basically, you have a database, like this whole table is my database. And then you start something that they call collections, which are like the tables of your database. And in the table, you have, like in the collection, you have documents. They call this idea of like in your code, it's the equivalent of having an object. If this object will be a document, which is basically what you see here. You have an ID, you have a name, you have a description, a date. So that little object will be what they call document, that live inside the collection that is like the table that you created, if you want to see it that way. Now, the cool thing about this is that documents could be pretty much anything, and um, documents also, like anything, objects in itself, arrays. We will see a bunch of reference. Um, we will see. I will show you that. It's pretty cool. Okay, so the project is ready. Go back here. You do continue. Then you select web because we are creating a Firebase for web here. And it will ask you again for a name. Let's do the same, conference landing test. You have to register, and then it will give you everything that you need uh, for working with this. So the first thing that we need to do is install Firefox. So let's go to the code very quickly, and in the other console, you do, let me install Firebase. And then they are very clear in the documentation that you need to create this config file. And the way that you do that for like, best practice in the industry or something like that is that you go to the source and you create there a folder that is called config. And in that config, you put Firebase.js. And now you can bring the whole code as they give you. You don't need anything else. And copy. Now you can delete the to-do because we are not doing the whole suite of products. So you don't need that. These are environmental variables. So in theory, you need to put these in your virtual environment variables, UMB local, like these ones. And you do that. It's a little consuming, but you do that creating so you can say next Firebase API key, and then you copy this one. And here, the thing that you do is you create, you bring this with process.md dot the name of this thing. And that way, all your virtual environments variables will not be on GitHub. You don't want to have these things on GitHub because, again, this could be expensive very quickly and you don't want to be hacked. And now GitHub has a really good bot that is scanning your code all the time. So now, the other thing that you can do on all fairness, if you don't want to do this whole process of creating the database, is that you can include this file in your git ignore. Now, it's not that recommended if you're working in a team, because then your team doesn't have this file. But it's the thing that I will do just for time consuming. And because I'm not working with a team, basically. But please don't do this. If you're working with a team, it prevents your team to having this information. Now we need to do a couple of things here. We need to import something that is called get Firestore. So we will get Firestore and we import that from Firebase slash Firestore. And with that method, we are importing a method. Basically, we can create a DB connection. So I will do DB equal get Firestore, and I will pass to that. It's basically with this, I'm creating an app instance. With this one, I'm creating the DB instance, and I want to export both of them. So what I will do is export DB, and you can also export the app if you need it for debugging processes, but I will not show you how you can do that, but it's a good practice. Okay, that's it. That's the whole installation. You don't need to do anything more. And then you do here, go to console. Um, you click and add app. 1 second. See, go to close Firestore to the processing. Ah, so it's you go to Cloud Firestone and you create that, and you can leave the defaults. But here it's important that you put the test mode because again, you don't want to be in productions and start generating cost. So you do create here. Uh, and that's it. Now you can have the, like, this is like a spreadsheet. It's basically give you a spreadsheet. So what you need to create is your collections, that is the tables that you want to do. Like if we were doing a bigger project, probably we'll have here the user table, or if you have here, I don't know, the tables that your project could be task and those kind of thing in a to-do list. But here, because I'm working with conference, I want to call this conference. And here, this is super important. You will create the documents. So it's basically each one of the objects that we are handling in the data. So it's basically allowing you to create each one of these kind of things, like these objects. And the way I want to prove it to you is I will create this object. Let's create this NextConf 2024. So the field is named because my field is named here, like my ID is named. So in the database, my field is the ID. Here you have the type, have a bunch of times we will use a string. And here the value is actually the value. So you put there the value there. And then let's create the other ones. So date, let's do date, and let's do timestamp because you have that. And look at that, it gives you the built-in like information to add data this way, which is amazing. So let's do October 24. The another one is, which one is another? Location and description. So I need to have the location, and let's call this virtual Zoom, and description, and I will bring this one from the code. Um, and then you just need to generate the ID. It doesn't allow you to generate a document if with an ID. You can do a simple, sorry, you can do a simple ID wherever you want it, but you also can auto-generate the ID. And I would recommend that you auto-generate the ID for security reasons. And then when you have the document ID, it allows you to create a save. And now you have a collection that has the first document. So we want to bring this like we don't want to bring the hard code data anymore. We want to bring the real thing. So we basically need to do a fetch now. And it's very simple because we are working with Firebase in the code. So let me give you a bunch of what we need to do. So put this. We need to do, the first thing is the import, the things that we needed. And we need several. We need to import collection. We need to import get docs. Is what allow you to have the document, like this document. They have functions for each one of the things. And you can, I will share with you the link of the documentation because they are very clear. But if you are following this one, you need that function. You need the function add doc very soon because we want it. We need the function delete doc because that is there. Then we need to bring the doc itself. And I will, because I'm working with timestamps, I will bring that. And then I need to import also the database that I create. So I need to import my DB from my config data. So otherwise, and this have no idea what I'm talking. Now, I don't need to have, my initial state of this conference will be empty, because what I will do is fetch this data. So I need to have a function fetch fetch conference, and that will be an async anonymous function. And what I want to do is bring that data from the database. So I will do const conference collection. That's the first thing that you need to do, because you are bringing the whole collection. And that will be with the collection that they will give you. That is a function that takes two things: your database and the title of your collection, which for me is conference, because this is conference. This is the name of my collection. So this is the name that I'm bringing. And now you want to bring everything that is inside that uh, conference collection. So you do something that they call a snapshot. So you do conference snapshot, which is basically the await of this async with the get docs. And this function take the collection that you just created. So conference collection, this one. And then what do you want to do? Because it brings the whole list. So let's do a list, conference list. Like it brings this thing, the whole list of all the collections that all the documents. So let's do the list, which is the conference snapshot with map. But we're gonna do docs from then. So we are gonna say, bring all the docs that are inside this snapshot and do a basic map. And it's basically for each one of these docs, I will want to have the data. So data is equal to doc is equal to doc.data, which is a function. And with that, I can return the document itself that I want to have. So the first thing that I want to bring is the ID, and it will be doc.id. Then I will bring everything, because I don't need to copy paste. So you cannot do that. You can now do that with the amplifier operator. I don't remember how you call this 3 dots. Is the multiply operator, I think. And then because I have to do a little detail, because I here working one of my objects is actually a datetime, a timestamp. So I need to deal with that, as always, with data stamp. So I will say that date is, I need to check if data.date is an instance of a timestamp. And if it is, I do something. If not, I will do anything. So if it is, what I will do is that I will convert that thing, data, that date, to to date, to a string. So it will show as a string, and not as a timestamp. And if it's not, for some reason, well, then show me whatever it is. So data, that date. Need to do this, so notes. And now that I have this correctly, I can use set conference and pass conference list. Now this will work, but again, I'm showing the conference only if the user is registered or not. So I will use a use effect. And for doing that, I will bring use effect here. And what I will do is that I have use effect here, and it's basically checking. It's an anonymous function that is basically checking if I have an user. So literally, if I'm user, then I will do fetch conference. It's a function. If not, um, what are you complaining about this? I have an user error from this one. Um, Now I think this will bring us the get working correctly, and then we need to see it, right? Um, so we'll do the same user. If the user is not, the conference are happening. Otherwise, it will bring the conference map, and I have the conference ID and everything else. Okay, I think this will work. And if I do click and refresh, I have an error, which is that today is not a function. Okay. Um, that is basically at this moment. Um, that date instance of times. There is no errors. And it's this conference that I'm bringing from the data, which is pretty cool. Now, of course, I'm just handling, bringing the information, the real information for the data. But now this button will not work again because, well, it's not connecting to the database at all. So I need to change that. So I need to change the handle at conference, but it's not that difficult. And what I will do, I will copy paste this one just for time consuming. So what I do is that I will create that as an async function, because now I will do basically a promise to handle the conference. And what I'm doing is an await to the add.collection. And this function, the add.collection that they give you, that you don't need to do anything, it basically creates the doc reference for you. And it takes two arguments, the collection, we have the collection here, like the same way that you create this collection. So in the collection, we just do the DB that you are initially, the title of your DB, and then you bring the conference data. And this conference data is whatever is passing to the conference, to the form. And what I'm doing here is I'm deconstructing that object just because I need to check that the time step is actually a time step, not just I'm converting all the thing that brings for the form to actually be a time step. And then I need to do again the fetch to bring all the list of the conference, including the new one. And I have this console log for sanity reasons, but and to check that the ID, the document reference, is the one that I bring from the database. And of course, because you are async await, you need to do a try catch. So with that, I think that will work. So let's see. Let's do testing next 2024. This thing will work because at the end of the day, this will not be just a string. I'm converting this to a timestamp, virtual zoom to, and let's do an event. And if I add it, it is there. It is super cool. And you can check the console log to see the document successfully added with the ID. And you see how it brings the ID, that it brings from here, which is super cool because it connects immediately. And if you check the code, the only thing that you are actually doing is this line, which is pretty incredible because they are giving you the add doc function for free, basically. And it's just connecting the database that you already have. It doesn't do anything else. And now with Next.js, you can do this in the front end with async await, which is also something that blows you. So now you have the get and the post of handling data this way, and you don't need a server, and you don't need all that information that was before when you were working with data. Now let's do the delete because of course I just broke the delete. Yeah, you have a question?
Yes. So this is amazing. I've never used Firebase,
Yeah,
but I just was wondering, can you also like store like pictures? Do they have
yeah, you can store pretty much like the fields are amazing. And
Mm.
I think Pictures are basically reference.
Okay.
But also you can convert that URL of a picture in a string and you bring that.
Oh, okay,
Um,
cool.
it is super cool. It is amazing working with this project, with this product, because they give you all the information and the documentation is amazing. I will put the the documentation, and it will give you all the all the the I've completely the functions for free. You just need to add doc and they will give you everything that so you work
I,
here, you just check for add doc.
I also said they have some analytics, like,
Yeah, they will give you analytics if you need it.
uh, is this service free or do they have a tier to pay? Sorry, I'm not, I have never
They
used it,
they
so.
have a tier that is start to pay, but only if you move to production.
Oh, nice.
As
Yeah,
long as you're working on testing, it's free. Um,
awesome. Oh,
but
that's why you were changing in the setting to be
uh-huh,
testing. I start
uh-huh,
doing production.
uh-huh.
Okay, so oh, I got it. So it's super important. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Here is all the documentation about add doc, setting doc, and it's super. And here is all the documentation about data types, and like it is super well documented. And again, it's just one function, and then async away, and you have the configuration, which is really amazing.
Nice.
Um, let's do the delete, disconnect the delete, because again, now it's not that easy anymore. But it's basically very similar because the only thing that we need to bring now is the ID. So we need to convert this function to an asynchronous function again because we are dealing with a way of connecting with a database, like with the promise of connecting with a database. But then the only thing that we are is checking in the doc that they give you, like the function doc that they give you, that you have the ID that you are looking for. And they will give you the function itself. Once you find the thing that you want to delete, you just need to say await delete doc, and that's it. It's one line of code. And of course, you need to fetch conference for refreshing, and that's it. That's how you delete something, which is insane. Um, because you don't need to simulate this function or you don't need it for scratch. It's amazing. And then once you do this, it works. Um, it is blow your mind how easy it is to set up these things. Um, and it works here too. Like it's deleting the thing from here. Um, because I'm working with the code that they give you. It's basically they give you this code. Like I'm just checking that the ID is the thing is the same ID that they have, and then I just deleted that thing. That's it. That's the whole thing that you need to do, um, which is pretty much incredible. And now you can say that you have a project with a connection on database. So very quickly, only a recap of the things that we learned today, why or when and how you can use a database. I wanted that you check it what is those backend as a service because they are super popular now and they give you everything basically. So working with that is very easy. Then how to set up a Firebase and how to do the CRUD operation. Basically, we have the get, so it's create, read, and delete. I'm not demonstrating in this product the edit because it doesn't make sense. But yeah, that's it. That was the workshop for today. Next workshop will be the last one. I will show you how to send this to Vercel. It's basically the only thing that we're gonna do. And then I will show you a couple of things very cool that Vercel will give you that are super cool, and tips and things that you can do with Vercel and with Next.js also. Some tips and cool products that they have for free that are amazing. Again, this code is in, I think I always forget to say that, but all this code and everything is in my repository on the conference landing. So if you go to my GitHub conference landing, and you will find the slides here for session, the slides, you can follow the slide, and there you can find the code if you are checking this. And anything else, let me know. Let me stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much, Liliana, for being here.
No, thank you. Amazing.
Cool. I will see you next week.
Yeah, I just have a last question.
Yeah, of course.
Related to the variables, like constants.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed you call one like code reference snapshot. Is that like
Oh,
a
yeah.
set in the Firebase, or is something that we can set any name? Sorry,
You can call it anyway. Like, yeah, the name of the, let me share the screen again. So the name
sorry.
of, no, at all. Sorry, Ara. The name of the phone is not that, you can call it this anything, but it's
Okay.
like a good practice to call it this one because it tells you what are you doing. So the collection is bringing basically the whole thing, like this
Okay.
whole table, right? The whole, you can think on a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet. It's bringing the
Mhm.
whole thing,
Okay. So
and
it's
then
a best naming convention for.
it's naming convention, and
Okay.
then the snapshot, it gets the snapshot of this specifically collection that you are doing um, at
Okay.
this specific moment on time. That's the reason they call it snapshot, because it's at
Okay.
this specific moment on time. And then you bring the list because it's a list of objects, and then you do the map in that
Got it. Yeah.
specific.
Nice. Yeah, great. No, now it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I just wasn't sure if that was like something that I would find in the Firebase that it would be connected through.
Yeah, you will find these names, like it's a
Okay.
convention.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can check also the documentation of these functions. For example, all the documentation about the collection itself and the documentation about the get docs function
Awesome. Yeah.
is there.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. I'm super happy that you are also excited about this because it is a super nice product.
Yeah. Everything you're given on this workshop is new for,
Yeah,
I mean.
cool. Okay, I will stop the recording.